So in the part 2 video of me doing the foam seat on this bike, I was talking about coming up with something that I'm going to locate it at the front and have some sort of latch at the back. And I put the question out there for some comments to come in, and I got heaps of comments. But the two major ones that stood out to me were, one is, you know, having something that comes down here that you can put a bolt through. That was one. I wanted it to be a little bit faster release than that. So the other idea that I got a lot of, which was what I was going to go with, was having a latch like you would on a normal sports bike, or most bikes now, I guess. Just like a cable that you pull or a key that you turn or something, and it just releases that. So that's what I decided to go with. I went on eBay and had a hunt around to see what I can find, and I ended up picking this up. I think it's off a Juke, like a KTM Juke. That's what it said on the ad, but I don't have the actual post that goes through there, so I'll have to manufacture that. However, it's going to be perfect for what I need, just so that I can release that rear seat. Now I've just got to try and make a mounting for this to sit on. So where this is going to be placed is just here, like that. It fits kind of well. This also has to be put up here as well, and this just happens to have a hole almost exactly where I want this to be, which was kind of lucky, because I want this to hang out just a little bit, but not too much. Just to have basically a mud guard hanging out the back to give it that Scrambler look, but I don't want it to be too much. And that fits there like that. So what I'm going to do is make a mounting for this, but it's also going to mount this as well. So this here is the original CX500 seat. It is pretty badly rusted, the actual pan itself, so I've wrapped it in some sandwich wrap just to try and stop the rust from going everywhere. The front locating mount here is in pretty good nick, so what I might do is unbolt that and try and reutilize it if I can. It's designed specifically to go up underneath where that tank mounts, so it's designed for it. If I can use it, I will. Otherwise, I'll just recreate one. So let's get that off and see if we can make that work. So if you're going to be doing a seat yourself, try and remember to do the mounts before you put the foam on. Don't do what I did. The beauty about it is, you can actually cut it, you can do what you need to do and then stitch it all back up again, or sorry, glue it all back down again. Because I haven't finished the shaping of this seat, I'm not too worried about it. Now the bolts that I'll be using, they've got like a little cog gear type location thing on the underside of the pan head. I've just got heaps of these from a job that I used to do, so I'm going to use them. So all I've done here is pretty much drill two little holes a little bit smaller than the underside of this head, enough for the actual shank of the bolt to go through, and then just leave it just a little bit proud where the actual teeth are, so that when that goes down, I hit it with a hammer, it'll actually bite into the fiberglass and stop it from spinning. For some added strength, I'm going to be putting some contact adhesive over this and on here, and when I glue that down, I might even put some under the head of that just to stop that from ever moving. So just to explain what I'm doing here, I've just made this clay wedge, is pretty much all I've done. So I've glued this up under here and then put a blob of this clay, obviously on top as you saw, and then pushed down on the seat. So that gave me the exact shape that I need to make. So, and what it ended up being is just a wedge. This piece here, just ignore that. I'm pretty much either going to cut it there or slice it down a bit further, probably there I'd say. So slice that off, and then you'll just be left with this wedge here between my fingers, and that's what I need to create. I like to make it out of this HDPE plastic because it's like awesome stuff to work with and it's super light, but just don't have the right thickness. It's a little bit thin for what I need, so I might look at another option, see what I have floating around. So the main reason I decided to do it this way was purely because once the seat was on and this bracket is in place, I just literally can't see up inside here to get a measurement between this plate and the underside of the seat. So if you haven't got yourself a hot melt glue gun, I highly recommend getting one. But before you buy one, just so you know, in case you didn't know, there's two different styles. You can get obviously the craft ones and then the bigger workshop style one. This one here is the one I use. I highly recommend it. It heats up a lot more, has a bigger volume, so the glue stick's bigger. If you use one of those small ones, you're going to get very frustrated because by the time you put down the first bit of glue and then continue, once you are ready to put those two pieces together, the glue just goes hard a lot faster because it's not as hot. So get one of these. There is a link in my Amazon store for one just like this. However, I think you can buy them from most hardware stores anyway. So what I ended up digging up to build this wedge out of is a little bit of plastic. This plastic is a little bit bigger than what I need, so I'm just going to cut it out and then obviously shave it all down with the belt grinder. What it actually is, it's plastic, it's really lightweight, and it's for concrete tilt panels. It's actually like a shim that they put under them to try and level them out. So I know the plastic is super strong. I don't know what sort of plastic it is, but hopefully it shaves well and cuts well. So where the new holes need to be drilled is about 10-15 mil forward to where the existing ones are. But before I do that, I'm going to see if I can get away with using the existing ones first. Oh man. Oh, that's why I spent a little bit extra time trying to get it right, because that just kind of snapped in place. That is so cool. Okay, so admittedly, once the fabric goes on, I'm gonna have to put a few spaces in there to allow for that, but that is perfect. Like, it just sits in there and just tucks under perfectly. So what I will do is I'll cut these bolts down eventually and just get them to the length that I need them. They still need to come down a little bit further. As you'll see, they're just a little bit raised there. But once they're pulled in, tucked in, they can be chopped off. The correct way to cut bolts, this is me learning from my mistakes, is I get a nut and I put a nut on the end of this one, tighten them both up, and then whether I'm using a grinder or a Dremel or even a hacksaw, so I make sure I cut that bolt straight across that nut there, so that when I take that nut off, it's going to be a lot easier for me to put a nut back on and off again. You can file it down so it's not sharp later on, but if you try and do it by hand, the chances are you're going to have fun trying to get a nut on. And that's just what I've learnt. So if it helps you, I hope it does. It's just a cool little thing that I've learnt along the way. So these bolts that I'm using here are temporary. I'm not going to use these ones. I've got another idea, actually something similar to the bolts that I used on the front here. So stainless Allen heads. So just using these now for pre-fitting it, and I was screwing the nut up from underneath, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but this happens more times than I'd like to mention. The thing slipped from my fingers, hit the tire, bounced and just took off that way. So I think it's behind those orange things. Those things there are for my beam that everyone wanted to see. The actual overhead beam where the hoist is going to be going on, the electric hoist to lift the engine and bike up and stuff. So I think, yeah, I can see it now actually. There it is. That's lucky. It's not always that easy. Leave me a comment if you can relate to that. Having to hunt for things that you drop and spending so long trying to find them in your garage.